maybe a bit smoother than trying to have like an official start and an official end.
we already got rid of like a real ending, right? We just kind of ramble until it fades out.
Yeah. I don't know. There's like a coziness that comes from that, I feel, and I'm kind of okay with it.
Well, hopefully that comes off to any listeners then.
Yeah.
All right, welcome to episode 11 of the Podratix Gaming Cast. I'm Zach.
I'm Sophia.
And we're here to talk about games.
Video games! We are definitively the first people to talk about video games.
We are. We're the first YouTube channel to talk about video games.
Mm-hmm.
There are no others.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure they'll start copying pretty soon.
Yeah. We're really setting some trends here.
And I forgot to turn the fan off, so there might have been a little background noise there.
Well, it's okay because I've got a fan going in my room, so hopefully that's not too much. It's a constant noise though, so maybe it won't be too hard to.
I mean, I didn't hear anything in the last editing, but
okay.
I can cut that out too, though.
Okay, this is a great podcast about video games.
Yeah, I like how we said we were going to talk about games, and then we're talking about fans and editing.
Yeah. People. You know what? People subscribe to us for the quality content that we provide.
I hope so.
Among other things, we talk about games.
So do you want to jump into what games we've been playing?
Sure.
I know you're excited to talk about something that I may or may not know of.
Are you asking me to go first?
Oh yeah, I was trying to set you up, and then...
So. As of recording, about 17 minutes ago, Chapter 2 of Deltarune has been released, and I am so excited about it. A couple hours ago, I started replaying Chapter 1 because I just kind of wanted a refresher about everything, and that's what I've been playing. Other than that, mostly just the Game Club game. Deltarune, I guess, I don't know. I probably should talk a little bit about the kind of game that Deltarune is.
Yeah, so is it, how does the combat differ from Undertale, or does it?
So it does differ. You don't have like random encounters. They're like enemies on the field that will like be alerted when you get near them and chase you down.
That's cool.
If you touch them, then you enter a battle. And it is more like I guess the battle screen is similar to like a Final Fantasy where you have like the characters on one side, enemies on the other.
Okay.
And it has the similar mechanics to Undertale, where like you do not have to fight an enemy in order to win a battle. You can interact with the enemies in different ways to basically I can't think of the word. There's like a basic. You can go for a pacifist run in this, and it strongly encourages you to do that.
So is it still like a heart in a box that you have to like either platform or just dodge things?
Yeah. So whenever it's the enemy's turn to attack, you have like three characters that in your party, and it will like before the enemy begins attacking, it will show you which members of your party are being targeted, and then it will bring up a small box with your heart in it, and the enemy will have different attacks that you have to try and dodge. And they're all like they all have like different looks, different mechanics based on the type of enemy. If there are multiple enemies, then their attacks combine, so you have to like dodge all of their attacks at once.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and you can do things to like you can like strategically spare enemies or defeat enemies in specific orders to try and make things easier. It's really good. The music, as it was with Undertale, is phenomenal. Sense of humor is really just it's very silly, and it's also extremely heartfelt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I highly recommend it. It's you're kind of like supposed to play it after you've finished Undertale, but you don't really. You're not really required to probably get more like out of it emotionally, maybe. But it's sort of like they're taking the characters from Undertale and like telling a new story with them, as though Undertale didn't happen.
Gotcha.
But there are like elements of like there are parallels and elements and whatnot that will like hit harder maybe if you are familiar with like
Hmm.
how like the characters from Undertale and how the story
Okay.
plays out.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I was telling Sophia before we were started recording. I've never finished Undertale. I have played it, and it was a lot of fun. It was just I was playing it on my like garbage old laptop,
Mm-hmm.
so that was just like the worst possible way to play anything.
Yeah.
It's an old like Core i3 from like 2012. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it barely runs, but
I think we've all had a computer like that at one point.
but yeah, at the time, like that was before I had my like real gaming PC, so
Mm.
that was my only way to play Undertale.
Yeah. Well, now you can play it on the Switch
Yeah.
or Xbox or PlayStation. Um, I don't know why it hasn't come over to iPad yet.
What was it? Was it built-in Game Maker?
Yes.
Okay. I had Game Maker in my head, and I was like, I'm not sure if that's correct, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
okay.
I think after Chapter 1, they switched game engines. I'm not sure what they're using now, um, but I think it's different from what they have been using.
Okay. Okay. Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to actually finish Undertale and then start playing through Deltarune.
Yeah. For both chapters
Yeah.
are free. Future chapters will be paid. Um, and so, like, for that price, what have you got to lose? It's
Right.
absolutely worth checking out for free.
Right.
Um,
And I guess he has the money now. Like I Undertale is so huge.
mhm. Yeah,
Like it's crazy to see like actual Undertale merch in stores.
yeah.
So I'm sure he's not hurting for cash,
Hmm.
but
Plus the soundtrack, um,
right.
which I got a notification um, that the soundtrack for Chapter 2 was uploaded on Bandcamp, and I immediately bought it, and I haven't even played it yet. So I haven't listened to
Wow.
it, but it's there. It's there
Yeah.
waiting. I'll probably listen to it while I'm drawing.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what I've been up to. Um, Not really much else. What about you?
So I've been playing. I finally got started on Axiom Verge 2,
Mm.
the sequel to Axiom Verge 1.
What?
So apparently, like, it doesn't really feel connected at first.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, there are connections later on, um, but it's a very like different setup. Like you're playing as essentially a CEO who like buys out another company, and then she gets like some kind of warning note that if she wants to see her daughter again, to go to this like Arctic base where like years ago people had all disappeared, and then when she goes there, she like starts exploring and then falls into what looks like a cave, but then kind of ends up in another dimension where there's like these spirits in bottles that you collect, and they give you like they're called arms,
Mm.
and they give you different abilities. Some of them have human essence in them, so they can actually talk to you through different situations. And basically, the whole game is trying to find a way to get back out
Hmm.
um, and figure out kind of the mystery of like why you're getting these messages and where your daughter is. So,
I wish that all CEOs would fall into another dimension. But go on.
Yeah. So it's a very like different kind of protagonist in that sense because she's not really caring at all.
Hmm.
You do meet up like with a few survivors that were there at the original like Arctic base that supposedly disappeared. Um, but so it's a Metroidvania if you're not familiar with Axiom Verge. That was kind of one of the indie games that led the charge into this kind of new like golden era of Metroidvanias.
Hmm.
So, and I kind of feel like I went back and replayed a bit of Axiom Verge fairly recently, and it's still really fun, but I do feel like there are much better ones now. Like it was one of those things that one of the reasons I felt like it was so popular at the time was not just the story's really good, um, but a lot of it was that there weren't as many Metroidvanias, and I
Hmm.
feel like there's a lot more competition. This game does try and change a lot.
Hmm.
Um, it introduces a new hacking system. So all of the enemies are drones controlled by this weird statue robot thing
Uh-huh.
that apparently like the locals were kind of worshiping. And you can hack them and you can upgrade through like the skill tree to perform various functions on them. So you can slow down their move speed or decrease their attack or make them an ally. So all of that is pretty cool. The combat itself is kind of the one issue that I have with the game so far. The level design's really good. The story is great. The graphics, the music is fantastic. It's very ominous, very disturbing at times.
Hmm.
um, but the combat is not fun at all.
Oh.
And it's kind of intentionally that way because they're trying to kind of get you to rely more on the hacking system. But you kind of have to be close to the enemies to be able to hack them.
Hmm.
And all of the enemies are super fast and they have like sensors. So it kind of plays out like a stealth game. So you're trying to kind of hide from the different drones while getting from place to place. And the drones have a ton of HP. You can increase your attack power, which makes it a little better. But basically, your only attacks are mostly melee focused. So they kind of got rid of any kind of gun like from the first game.
Mm.
And yeah, it just like all the enemies take a lot of hits. They're programmed to be irritating. It feels like they kind of made it feels intentional, like they were trying to make combat something you wanted to avoid.
Hmm.
But in a game where you're backtracking and getting lost a lot, it can be a little frustrating,
Yeah.
especially since like your hacking relies on a power bar um, that really only fills up at save spots or by defeating enemies. So you don't have like infinite hacks that you can do.
Hmm.
And the game is fairly vague, which could be a good thing or bad thing depending on your tastes. It's definitely very different from, let's say, the game we're going to talk about a little later in the show. um, in that, like, it'll kind of give you generally where you need to go, but no clear path on how to get there.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of different, like, there's a lot of power ups that feel like they're optional, but they're really not. And you also get these, you have like skill trees that you can level up, like your attack power, melee, ranged. Like you have a boomerang you can throw, um, which doesn't do a lot of damage because I thought that might alleviate some of it, but it doesn't.
Mm.
It's still pretty fun to use because you can press the attack button again to call it back. Um, but yeah, it is fairly vague. So there's a good bit of backtracking, and it feels a lot like a game that would have come out during the Super Nintendo era or early PlayStation One.
Hmm.
So I guess again, that's either a good thing or a bad thing based on your taste in games. But if you like a little more hand holding, maybe not pick up this game. But it's a very good Metroidvania, and I'm enjoying it.
Okay. Sounds really interesting. I'm not sure if it's um, quite my cup of tea, um, but I don't know. Maybe I should just give it. I'll probably watch like someone playing it and see if it looks like something that I'd be interested in.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
Other than that, I've been. I got back into. I'd actually started about a year ago. Um, Middle Earth: Shadow of Mordor.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you're familiar with this game at all.
I've heard of it, and I've seen like a little bit of it, but I've never played it.
Okay. So it's basically it's by like a director that worked on Assassin's Creed 1 and 2, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also like it's basically Assassin's Creed meets Batman Arkham, but then in a fantasy Lord of the Rings era. And at first I was like kind of taken aback by just how similar it was to Batman's combat system. So like you get the prompts over their head. It plays like you have the like double bottom button dodge roll where you can like flip up over enemies. You have knives that basically act like batarangs. You have like you have basically a stun move that allows you to do a bunch of quick attacks, just like Batman's cape attack.
Mm.
Um, but it does actually start to differentiate itself partway through, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's another like huge open world game, so it has like all the it has all the collectibles and like copy pasted content, everything you'd expect from kind of a modern open world game. But it does have the Nemesis system, which I'm sure you've heard about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. I wasn't expecting a lot. Like I know everyone was kind of raving about it when it first came out, and I wasn't. I was kind of expecting to not be impressed,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a little cooler than I thought. So basically, there's a bunch of NPCs that are given special stats as well as like personality traits. Like they'll be afraid of certain things, or they'll have certain armor that allows them to protect themselves from arrows. And then anytime you get killed by one of them, then they move up in the ranks and they get promoted, and then they become more powerful. And your character dies early on in the game and then gets like cursed and um, basically merged with a ring wraith. I don't know how familiar you are with Lord of the Rings.
I'm passively familiar with the ring wraiths.
Okay. So he's basically like he has these enhanced abilities from the wraith.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's actually basically your deaths are canon. Because then when you go back up to an enemy that's killed you, or maybe an enemy that's fled from you, because some of them are kind of cowards, they do have different personalities. Um, then they'll actually like comment on like how they killed you, or they'll like say something like, "Oh, it's that guy," you know.
Hmm.
So it is pretty cool. You can eventually, if you get far enough in the game, you'll get the ability to take over their minds, and then you can kind of lead a small army of them, which is pretty cool, especially like getting archers on your side
Mm-hmm.
for certain battles. And it is required for some missions, but you can do it on your own as well. Um, and then there's kind of like you can basically then create like turf war type situations, like power struggles within. So it's pretty neat. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's the kind of game that like I, I generally don't have a lot of time for, but I'm close enough now to the end that I'm trying to see it through
Mm-hmm.
because the story is pretty interesting. It's set after the events of The Hobbit, but then before the Lord of the Rings
Oh,
trilogy.
neat. I like The Hobbit, the book, not the movies.
Okay, so you are like somewhat uh, familiar then with.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen all the Lord of the Rings movies, including the extended versions. It's been a while, but I have seen them. I've
Okay.
seen, I guess, the 2 out of the 3 Hobbit movies. I've read and reread The Hobbit um, numerous times. It's, I think, my favorite book. Um,
It's one of mine too.
so, like, yeah, I'm like familiar enough with Lord of the Rings, but like,
Okay.
I'm not like deep lore Silmarillion.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm probably at a similar state then. I've read all the books, I've seen all the movies,
Hmm.
so and there are references to things that happened in The Hobbit.
Okay.
And there are a couple of different locations within Mordor that you get to go to. So it is pretty cool, like actually seeing, like you see bits of Mordor in the movies, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of different to be able to run around and actually engage with them.
Yeah.
And they do a good job. There's a lot of dialogue, a lot of voice dialogue. So the Urukai are actually like entertaining to just kind of hang around with.
Mm.
So it's pretty well done. It's more enjoyable than the average Assassin's Creed, I would say.
Mm.
Which I enjoy those games, but they got a little grindy.
Mm.
So
Okay. Well, I'll have to check that out at some point.
you can probably find it. It came out in like 2014, so it's
It's Friday.
yeah, we said it's a free pass for speeding
Yeah.
where you live.
Yeah, it's the weekend.
Right, they got their weekend pass.
Mm-hmm.
They're free to speed now.
Officer, it's the weekend.
Trying to think if there's anything. Oh, I did play. I did also play Donkey Kong Land. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this one.
Donkey Kong Land. Is that like one of the Game Boy games?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's actually it's a spin-off of the Donkey Kong Country series. And it's gonna my like quick review of it is going to be very similar to Mega Man Roman numeral 2, in that it does kind of feel like, like the Donkey Kong Country at home experience. So it's not bad. It's definitely like all the levels are different. There's parts of it that feel very familiar, and there's obviously assets that they've taken straight from it. And they did an impressive job, like bringing actual Donkey Kong graphics to the Game Boy.
Mm.
But at the same time, it's really zoomed in. So, like, I died so many times just from not knowing where I was going to land.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this though: there are 4 worlds. Each one has 10 levels, so there's quite a bit of content. The last world is set in a city, which is completely different.
Oh, wow.
All the other locations are similar to places that you explored in the first Donkey Kong Country. So I don't know if this could be New Donk City, an early version.
A donkey in Times Square.
It's also the worst world in the game.
Well, we can't all be perfect, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, that and the cloud levels are pretty bad. Just
Cloud
all of it
levels
kind of comes.
are usually hit or miss.
Yeah, they're very miss in this one. There's like platforms that every time they touch a wall or you jump on them, they change directions. And when Donkey Kong takes up like a good eighth of the screen, it's very easy to not see things coming.
So it's like I think it's fascinating, like the choices that developers make when making games with like such restrictive canvases.
Yeah.
And you look at like Super Mario Land, where like Mario is like 5 pixels tall, and and there's like you could see so much ahead of you, and then there's this Donkey Kong Land, and it's just like I can't see anything.
Yeah. Have you looked up a screenshot, or have you played this game?
I've seen it before.
Okay. Then yeah, you're probably pretty familiar. They did it like it's impressive when you first see it. It's like, wow, that looks like a black and white Donkey Kong Country. There's a few animations that they've cut out, obviously due to Game Boy limitations, but still impressive. Just maybe not the best one.
Just put more memory in your cartridge.
Just insert more memory.
Yeah.
Or shrink Donkey Kong down a little bit.
Yeah.
That would have helped too.
I mean, yeah, you could go the easy way and just shrink Donkey Kong, but like, why would you do that when you can spend more money to put memory in your game cartridge?
Yeah,
I mean,
I do remember
they put a special chip in the Super Nintendo in Star Fox.
Yeah.
So like,
I think Capcom did for a couple of the Mega Man X games as well.
Oh yeah,
I think there were sound chips to get more sounds out of the. I think. Not 100% sure on that. I'd have to fact check, but I'm almost positive X3 has a special chip.
I would believe it because I do not care very much for the Mega Man games, but gosh darn, is the music a banger?
That's still crazy to me, but
One of these days we'll do Mega Man for Game Club, and then you can hear me talk about in detail why I don't like these games.
have you played Battle Network?
I've never played Network.
Oh, those games are really good. You might actually enjoy those.
I've
They're
heard they're really
RPGs.
good. I'd love to play them at some point.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to the ever-growing list of hey, maybe we should play that for our game club.
We're just gonna have to put it on a wheel and just spin it every time we finish a game.
That'd actually be kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean we're starting to collect so many titles that are like, hey, we should do this. If we can't decide, just spin the wheel.
Right. Well, that's it. That for me at least.
Okay.
So I'm trying
Well,
to think if there's any news. I don't think there's much. I know there's a new SpongeBob game coming out.
is it the All Stars Brawl?
No. The Cosmic Shake. It's like the spiritual successor to Battle for Bikini Bottom.
What? Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Wait a minute. What? Hold on. What is this?
The Cosmic Shake.
The Cosmic Shake coming
Yeah, so
soon.
THQ Nordic just did like a anniversary showcase thing today.
Open up
So
portals
there's
to
no
other
gameplay,
universes.
but they've said it's a 3D platformer. So
Hold on. Hold on. Stop the. I have to watch this. Okay, hold on. It's a minute and a half. I need to see this. Is this just like SpongeBob the show, the game? Which I mean, that's what Bikini Bottom was.
yeah, I actually just played it recently, the rehydrated remake.
You played Bikini Bottom for the first time recently.
Yeah, the remake that they released last year. So it was pretty good.
This is so wild.
I guess it did well enough that they're kind of making something of a spiritual successor to. It doesn't show gameplay, unfortunately.
No, it's just like the sweet victory, and he's traveling through portals and stuff.
Yeah. SpongeBob SquarePants ripped apart.
And it's just Mrs. Puff wailing on the guitar the rest of the trailer.
Yep. Yeah, that's like a third of the trailer is just that scene of her playing guitar.
Okay, all right. This is amazing. This is the best news. Truly, we are blessed to live on this timeline. Oh gosh. Yeah. I've just learned about it, and I'm super excited for it now. And what's Deltarune even? How does how does that compare to new SpongeBob game?
I'm just glad we're getting more 3D platformers.
Oh
I don't care
yeah.
who's making it. Just like
Is it confirmed a 3D platformer?
yeah, that's what I read online.
Okay. Yeah,
There's no gameplay, but yeah, it's because of the success of the remake last year. So
yeah, I'm always excited about a 3D platformer.
now, had you played Battle for Bikini Bottom back in the day?
Yeah, I still have a copy for PlayStation 2.
Oh, okay.
That's really exciting because I love that game. Like it still holds up really well. I feel like I had a chance to play the remastered version recently, and like it's a good it's a I guess a good way to kind of like bring that game back into like the modern era. But like there are like tiny things that like I can't even like really explain about like the way that it controls that is just like makes it really hard for me, who's super familiar with the way that it feels in the original, to play the remastered. And
Gotcha.
that could just be something that like I need to get used to. I could just be being petty.
I know they contacted like speedrunners of the game to try and because it's completely rebuilt in Unreal Engine 4. So they had to like completely redo all the physics to make it feel like a game from 2003.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I just need to spend more time with it. Maybe I'm misremembering how how it felt in the original.
Mm.
But I for some reason or another, like I just couldn't. It just couldn't. It just didn't really feel right.
Gotcha. Yeah, I had no knowledge going in, so I was just like, all right, this is what it is.
What did you said you played it for the? What did you think of it?
I thought it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like I don't think it's as good as a lot of the 3D platformers I grew up with.
No, but
Um,
it's a solid like B grade platformer.
oh, for sure. Especially given that it's a licensed game,
Yeah.
so I can see why. Like, I wasn't in love with it, but I could see why it was so popular
Mm-hmm.
and why it holds like such a special place in so many people's hearts.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a double threat because like it is not only like a competent 3D platformer, but it is also a good SpongeBob game.
Right.
So like if you already love the show, like this is basically I get to run around Bikini Bottom and see like characters and places that I know, and like they put jokes from like the first 3 seasons or whatever in the game.
Right. Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of curious now if I should try and track down a copy of the original.
I think it'd be worth it. Again, like I don't know. I don't know. I guess it's up to you. There are probably people on YouTube that have done comparisons between the
Yeah.
two, like detailed comparisons. But
So is it kind of like the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy kind of situation? Because I know you said you played the remakes and you didn't feel like they controlled as well.
mhm. It felt like they made Crash a lot heavier, um, which just really threw me off because like I'm used to him feeling a completely different way.
Right.
Like it's not like so much heavier that it's like game breaking, but it's like enough to feel uncomfortable because I'm used to something different.
Gotcha.
I did play it a little more fairly recently, and I found that like it didn't bother me as much. So I'm not. Again, I'm not sure if it's just like I'm misremembering how these things felt back in the day, or
Right.
if I'm just an old boomer now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would have like going back to SpongeBob, I think I would have been a little bit more disappointed in it if it weren't it was like 20 or 30 bucks
Mm-hmm.
for the remake, brand new. Um, so I thought the pricing was pretty fair. It kind of goes back to our first episode when we talked about remakes, how like they remade a lot of the things that were like, this feels bad. Like this feels super dated. This didn't need to be here. You could have made this better, but
Mm-hmm.
like they remade everything for better or worse.
Yeah. Um, I'm not sure like how much of a factor like you look at like how the Spyro games were remade, and like they had like they developed tools to like extract like the exact like level geometry, and then they just like made it pretty. Um,
Mm,
but like they made everything like grew from scratch for SpongeBob. So like I don't know like how much of a factor that plays into the result.
right.
Including in Spyro's case, like including things like enemy paths, and stuff like that, um, is part of the geometry. And I think they like did stuff with how Spyro handles, but like generally it's like pretty faithful.
Mm.
Um, but I don't know. I feel like I'm just kind of rambling now. I'm
Yeah, I didn't mean to get us
the
back on the part two of remake discussions.
it's no, it's all good. I'll finish with this. Like I'm glad that the remake exists and that people are getting to play a game that I grew up with and love.
Right.
Um,
And we wouldn't have gotten this new game if it weren't for that remake.
yeah,
So, because that was definitely them testing the waters.
yeah. I'm excited about this new one. I'm hoping that it'll be good. It looks I love the way that it looks, but we haven't seen any gameplay yet, so we'll see.
Right. All right. I think it's time for the big discussion, Metroid Fusion.
Let's talk about it. Let's
Where
talk.
do you want to begin with this one?
Um, I guess let's talk a little bit about like the like game itself. This was came out in about I think 2002.
Yes, that's correct.
For the Game Boy Advance. It was sort of like a companion, or it had like cross functionality with Metroid Prime.
Right.
Like if you had a game like a Game Boy Link, Game Boy GameCube Link,
Mm-hmm.
you could like unlock a fusion suit in Metroid Prime. And I
And you
think
could also unlock. Oh, sorry.
yeah, you could
Continue.
also unlock like original Metroid. I think in
Yes,
Fusion.
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Um,
Or was that with Zero Mission? I can't remember now.
hmm.
Because they might have done that with the same. Because 2004 was another year where we got two more Metroid games, right? We got like Prime 2 and Zero Mission in the same year.
I'm not sure.
So I know that because of those games like coming out in the same year, they had a lot of like transfer stuff.
Mm-hmm. Which I think that's really cool. They obviously couldn't do that when they did the Prime trilogy on the Wii.
Right.
But so like they made it so you can still get the fusion suit. You just have to like collect enough. They're like achievements that you get like credits for that you can spend on like concept art and stuff in the menus,
Hmm.
which is really cool. I love that that's a part of the trilogy.
That's cool. I have never played the trilogy,
Hmm.
so I mean I played all three games individually. I'm just saying I
Yeah.
haven't played like the Wii trilogy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
it definitely feels like something that they put a lot of thought into. That they didn't just like bundle everything together, and wrap it and ship it. Like they put thought into the menus. They did it like an achievement system where like some achievements were harder than others, but you got like different types of credits for each achievement, and then you could
hmm,
spend those on unlockables. So like concept art, behind the scenes stuff, like a model viewer. I think,
that's cool.
yeah, really neat way of like getting people to like kind of dig into the game.
Yeah, and it was like recently revealed that from one of the developers that that game was made by a skeleton crew of like 6 people
Mm-hmm.
in only a few months. So they were like under pressure big time.
This has nothing to do with Metroid Fusion, by
It
the way.
doesn't. It really doesn't. I just like talking
Yeah,
Metroid.
Metroid's just fun to talk about. Give us a break. Come on, internet. Um, I did not have a copy of this growing up. The first time that I ever played it was on an emulator on my dinky old ancient Windows like gateway tower that was running like
Oh wow.
Windows Millennium.
Jeez.
Yeah. Um, did you know they make emulators for really old computers? Game Boy Advance games ran on it just fine. DS
Okay.
was a heck of a struggle.
I'd
But
imagine.
I played a lot of like Super Nintendo games and Game Boy Advance games that
Okay.
way.
So about what year then?
Mm, early 2000s. I guess early to mid 2000s. I guess.
Okay.
It,
Okay, so yeah, so I originally played it around 2007 or 2008, somewhere around that. Because I had actually, I think I mentioned last time, I got into the series through Zero Mission,
mm-hmm.
a demo of it. I wasn't able to afford it at the time, but then like I kind of went crazy just like playing all of the Metroid games that I could. So, but that was one like I remember I was going back and forth. It was right when Prime Hunters came out,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going back and forth between which one I should buy, and I chose Prime Hunters, which I kind of regret now, but I still like that game. But I would have played it much earlier if I had spent my money then
Mm-hmm.
on Fusion. But I was like, I want to play the fancy new 3D one. So
Well, at least you got to experience it. That's
yeah,
what counts.
And then that copy ended up getting stolen, and then I got a copy of it through the 3DS Ambassador program in 2011. So, and that's the version I replayed.
Okay. I really wanted to try and get this running on the 3DS, but the tricky thing with emulation a lot of the times is that if you're not on a Windows machine, a lot of stuff is just like inaccessible. So like there's like a ROM patcher type thing you can use to like really easily upload ROMs to your 3DS. That is like Windows only, and everything else is like just like GitHub stuff that you have to like compile and figure out how to make. And I have a Macintosh, so like I can't run Windows apps on it.
Gotcha.
So I was like, okay, well, I've got my PSP here. It's still hacked. I'll just put a Game Boy emulator on it, and call that a day. And I couldn't find the power cord for it. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to play it on a Mac emulator. But then I remembered I have a PlayStation Classic that I'd hacked a few months ago. It had RetroArch on it. So I was like, heck, this will be great. I'll be able to play it on the TV, sitting on the couch. So
yeah, you sent me that picture, and I was like, I wondered what, because you had told me you were going to try and get it running on 3DS. So I was like, I wonder what series of events led to that.
Well, now you know. We'll say PlayStation Classic runs Game Boy games beautifully, as God intended.
Yes. Metroid running on a PlayStation.
Yeah.
1
so playing it on PlayStation was really interesting because like I was able to do save states, which I really only did for like bosses. Like if I got to a boss door, then I would defeat the door guardian and do a save state, because we'll get into it. This game is pretty cheap. It's cheap. It's hard. In really frustrating ways. But the other thing is that like the PlayStation controller has like double the buttons that the Game Boy has. Right. So like they're like by default the jump and shoot buttons have turbo alternatives on triangle and square. So I did make use of the turbo shooting, and it wasn't really as helpful as that sounds.
Okay, I was gonna say that sounds OP, but
in certain situations it is. In a lot of situations it's not, and we'll kind of touch on that.
Okay.
But that was my experience. I really liked playing it that way. Overall, I really enjoyed this game. There was a lot of stuff that really frustrated me about it. I guess we should probably start at the beginning, because there's a lot of story in this one.
Right. Yeah. Because I was going to say my summary of my feelings just before we dive in. I was kind of like falling back in love with this game for the first 2/3, and then it started to change a bit at the last third. That's all I'm going to say. So I still like, this was definitely one of the best games that we played on the Game Club, but yeah, let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning.
I'm trying to remember what games we've already played so that I can say something about it, but I can't remember.
Ukulele, Sonic 1 and 2, Other M.
We played Sonic 1 and 2 were good. 2 was great.
Sonic 2. I was gonna say, yeah. I'm still disappointed by Sonic 1.
Anyway, let's start at the beginning. So there's like most Metroid games open up like pretty like you basically start playing. This one there's like a small cutscene kind of explaining where in the timeline is this. I can't remember. It's after Other M, but I don't remember where Other M fits in the timeline.
Well, Other M's between Super and Fusion, obviously. I don't remember the exact years. I know this one is. I want to say it's like 10 years after the first game, because I know she's a lot older and more experienced in this one. And there's a pretty big gap between Super and Fusion, I thought. I could be wrong on that. But somehow, like, in my mind, Fusion takes place a lot later than those games, but I should probably fact check this before.
It's all good. So Samus has been asked to escort a team of researchers who are collecting samples of the creatures on planet SR388, which is where the Metroids were. They're no longer there, but they touch down and find out. There's this crazy goo called the X Parasite that is flying around, causing a lot of trouble. What it does is it mimics its prey, so it's like a shapeshifter type dealy. It infects Samus's suit, but doesn't really seem to do she absorbs one of the parasites, but it doesn't really seem to do anything. So they just kind of carry on. Midway through the return trip, she loses consciousness and crashes her ship into an asteroid field or asteroid belt.
Right.
They have to do surgery on her to save her. Her power suit has become so much a part of her that they can't safely take it off. They have to surgically cut it off of her, which is wild. I think I love that concept of a bio suit sort of thing that is just becomes so much a part of you that you can't take it off.
Right.
I thought that was really cool.
Sorry, I was looking up a timeline for Metroid, trying to find exact years. And so I was scrolling down really quickly, and apparently there's a Kingdom Hearts timeline underneath that. So the images weren't loading, and suddenly when I stopped scrolling, it was showing Dream Drop Distance.
Oh.
I was like, wait, what? That takes place in the Metroid timeline?
When did this happen?
I can't find exact years, but I want to say it takes place significantly after.
Okay. So she's unconscious. They have to cut her suit off of her. She's going critical, and they're like, this is it. This is it for Samus. But then someone's like, well, hold on a second. I've got a cure. Turns out the Metroids were the natural predator of the X Parasite. Without the Metroids around, the parasite is thriving and overtaking the planet. So they're like, well, we've got this spare Metroid DNA just sort of hanging around. Let's fuse this with Samus's DNA and see what's up. So it cures her. It was like a sample from the Metroid hatchling that they had held onto.
Right.
The one that sacrificed its life to save her at the end of Super Metroid.
Right.
So
I guess this could be still from the same sample from Other M.
Mm-hmm. Possibly.
I guess.
It's.
I mean, obviously, this game came out well before that game, so there's only references from Fusion in Other M, not the other way around.
Yeah, and Other M does a lot of hard work to kind of shoot Metroid Fusion in the foot. Knowing, we'll get to it.
Yep.
So Samus is saved thanks to the baby Metroid once again. She is given a loaner vessel, and there's some sort of disturbance on the research station. So she's gone there to check it out. And the part of her, the conditions of her taking this ship was that she had to cooperate with the onboard AI.
Which she names Adam.
She names it Adam because it reminds her of her former commanding officer, Adam. Yeah. She has this inner monologue in a couple of points where she's just sort of kind of processing everything that's going on.
Right. There's so many times I was like, oh, that's where they got this from Other M.
Mm-hmm.
Playing Fusion, there's I see now what they were going for. I'd kind of forgotten. I knew she kind of spoke to herself I remembered that in the elevators, but I was like, I'd kind of forgotten that was where they took that idea from, of like hearing Samus's thoughts in Other M.
Mm-hmm.
But it's clearly ripped from here. But it doesn't work as well. It just needed to be text
Yeah.
or have a
Well,
better voice
the
actor.
the thing that works so great in Fusion about like hearing Samus's thoughts is that it's like it is still like she's still very much like on a mission, and she's keeping it brief. Like these are just her like stray thoughts.
Right.
She's focused on the mission, but she's just like I have a couple thoughts about the situation, and then it moves on. The thing about Other M is that it just like she just went on and on and on and on.
Right.
So it's like would not stop talking about her, how she felt.
Yeah. And that line in Fusion where she talks about like giving the thumbs down and the any objections lady is like, I feel like that's been ruined now.
Yeah,
Like that made, I don't know, that was a better line when you don't see behind the curtain.
yeah, exactly. It like reading the line like conjures like an amazing picture of like the dynamic between her and Adam. She like both of them are like very like I don't know. They're both like smart as a whip. They don't take anything from anyone. And it's just like a show of their understanding of each other, and like the way that it's written. I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but it's just like it paints a really good picture of their relationship versus like
Right.
how it's shown in Other End. They usually say show don't tell. I wish we weren't shown because it just seems like really rough.
Yeah, especially having just played Other M, like there were numerous times in this game where I just got flashbacks. I was like,
Mm,
that would have worked so much better if I weren't familiar with that.
yeah,
Because it references the sacrifice too.
yeah.
So it's like once you've seen it and she's like, fumbling around and can barely walk, and then when you've seen that scene in Other M, it just ruins the
Mhm.
line in this game.
I didn't even make that connection. I thought that when it brought up the sacrifice that it was talking about the time that he sacrificed his own brother, just like
Oh,
just randomly sacrificed his brother during a mission.
did it say that? I could have sworn it made very clear that. Well, I mean, she does talk about how Adam like lost his life, not the whole thing where he's like,
I
what am I
must have
doing?
misread it because like he did, there was a point in another M where there's like doing a mission when she's like part of the
Oh, I
Federation.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, he sacrifices his brother because like there's no alternative. Like
Right.
one
I'm
life
saying I
for
thought they
many.
made that up in that game, but
Mm-hmm. I completely missed that it was like him sacrificing himself so that Samus could be saved. Um,
that,
I don't know how
that's
I missed
kind of
that.
that's the whole ending of the game, Sophia. How did you miss that?
So I was so wrapped up and like see that's the thing.
There's that
See,
there's that
Other
whole
M ruins
dialogue.
this game. Other M ruins the story of this game.
I was say that whole dialogue at the end, like when she's talking to the computer and actually talking, and there's banter back and forth. Like that whole sequence is about how like the computer is saying that Adam was wrong
To sacrifice himself
to
for her.
himself. Yeah,
I don't know. I think I got it
that's a
mixed up.
big moment.
In my defense, I was rushing to finish it because I thought we were recording yesterday.
Okay, okay,
So maybe
fair enough.
also the last part of the game is really stressful.
It is. It's very stressful.
Let's kind of try to jump back to the start here.
Okay.
Um, so this is a really fun setup for
Hmm.
Metroid. It's a really good explanation for why you don't have any of your powers
I was just
because
gonna
they have
say
been
that. That's
surgically cut off of you.
yes. It's a brilliant way. Like all the other games, it's like Samus gets caught up in explosion
Mm-hmm.
in uh, Prime, and then suddenly she's without all her stuff. It's like what?
Mm-hmm.
But like this game does it so organically, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
It just works.
Um, you've got notes. Where should we go first?
Okay, so they're all kind of out of order. So that was just because I was writing them as I was like, they were just the thoughts that came to me as I was playing.
Okay.
The first one was just that, like, gameplay wise, this game is very linear, and I knew it was,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd forgotten just how linear.
Yeah.
Like, there are times, especially in the first half of the game, where you kind of can't even go anywhere else but where you're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple times where you feel like, oh, I'm kind of going off the beaten path, and then you end up where you're supposed to go, and you're like, oh, that was the level design. It was just supposed to make me think that I was exploring. But
Yeah, a lot of the areas, the world is like kind of built into like 6 separate zones that are all like separated by their own elevator shaft.
Yeah.
So like there is no way, like you can't go from like the fire zone to the ice zone directly. You have to like go up its elevator shaft onto like the main floor and then down the Arctic elevator shaft.
Right.
And
And instead of having like doors that you open up with different weapons, they're basically different security levels. So as you go through, you unlock like different hatch levels.
mhm.
So you're kind of organically given like, okay, here's zone 1 that I can go to, and then zone 2.
Yeah. And like the design of each sector is very like very much like a loop. Like you were meant to
Right.
go through it like a specific way. Like it doesn't feel like that when you're going through it, but like when you follow the map,
Yeah.
that's where you're going.
And then about like you had messaged me that like this game was really short, and it was like, well, that's actually only about halfway through. You revisit like every area at least once,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'll find like new routes that are still just loops. They're just like loops under the main loop, and then you come back around the other side usually.
Yeah.
Um, that said, the controls are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
This game feels like really good, and the level design is phenomenal most of the time.
Yeah. Like the
So,
environments look really good. Like
oh, they do.
every sector looks like completely unique. Like no two rooms look alike.
Right.
These look these look like labs built with purpose.
Yeah, it's actually again very similar to Other M, like with the bottle ship, but this game does it so much better,
Mm-hmm.
where it's not just like the holograms. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. Other M just kind of ruined this game, especially having coming off it. Like,
They really did try to do a grittier fusion and it didn't work out.
yeah, a more dramatic,
Yeah.
grittier.
They tried to do
yeah.
3D fusion.
Atmosphere. I
Atmosphere.
had that in my. This game has like some. I mean, all the Metroid games have great atmosphere, but like this game goes for more of a like kind of surreal horror vibe. I feel
Yeah. So
like it's very colorful. Like the palette's super colorful, and it almost hits a little bit of that like end of Kirby / like ending of Earthbound style, like very colorful, almost cartoony. This game looks kind of cartoony
mhm.
in places, but yet like there's something weird and off about all of it,
Yeah.
and it makes it like weirdly off-putting,
Mm-hmm.
like kind of strangely terrifying despite being so colorful.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because like there are times where like you'll be going down a hallway and you'll see an enemy that's just like crawling on the wall, and then like you'll have to like go back through that, and that like enemy will be like a chrysalis on the return trip. It's like
Yeah.
like um you come back later on and it's like you see it like growing into something even stronger that you have to deal with later on. So like
Yeah.
there's like a feat, like even though like everything is kind of designed in a loop, it also is set up in such a way that like that loop is recontextualized every time you go through it,
For sure.
which I thought was really cool. It makes every trip through the environments different, even if like you're still taking the same paths.
Right. And we didn't really bring up, like we mentioned, well, actually, did we mention the SAS?
We haven't. No, we haven't yet.
Okay.
So
So
one of the,
yeah. Anyways, these Oh,
No,
sorry.
it's all good. So, like one of the first things that you find out is that the removed parts of your power suit are being stored on the station,
Right.
and you find out, they're gone, and there's a big explosion where they were.
Right.
And there's a cutscene when you first go down one of the elevator shafts, where you see it like explode through a wall, and you like see like the ghostly eyes of like a mimic Samus in her power suit. So there's a copy of Power Suit Samus walking around with all of her abilities.
Right. It's pretty much like the Samus from Super Metroid,
Mm-hmm.
while you're like this super powered down version. That, by the way, because of the Metroid vaccine that she took, she now has the weaknesses of the Metroid. So this thing has an ice beam, and you're very vulnerable to
Mm-hmm.
ice. So, like, this thing can kill you in like 2 to 3
Yeah,
shots.
I will say, as fascinating as the SAX is, it is criminally underutilized in the game. It like shows up 3 times, and you fight it like right at the end. But like there are like points where like you like are in the same room as it, and like if you like go into its cone of vision, then it will start chasing you down and trying to kill you,
Right.
and you can like have to try and escape. But like it's always at
Yeah.
a point where like you are like safely hidden. You have to go out
Well,
of your way
most of the
to
time. There is that one time that they make you drop in right with it,
hmm,
and then there's like a chase scene. Do you know what I'm talking about?
in the there's like that like half wall in the room, and if you drop.
There's a time where you come in like from the ceiling, and
Mhm,
then you hear the footsteps, and you're like, "Oh crap!" And then you drop through. There's like a breakaway block, and then you're just there with the SAX.
mhm.
And then you just have to run.
Oh
And
yeah,
that
yeah.
part was actually a little bit frustrating, which took away a little bit from the terror of the moment. I, I thought, but yeah, I think you're right. I think it is a bit underutilized. I will say I like the idea that every time it shows up, it feels like a cutscene,
Hmm.
but it is dynamic. So at any point, like, yes, most of the time you are safely hidden, but if you shoot or you make any kind of noise, like it will turn back around, and if you walk into, like you said, if you walk into its field of vision, it will attack you.
Hmm.
So it's played out like I think most games would normally take the route of like, oh, here's the thing, and in this one it's like, oh, there's the thing, and it actually is a dynamic enemy that will kill
Yeah.
you.
It, I hadn't thought about it like that of it being like an interactive cutscene. That's a really good way of looking at it. I just wish that like from a gameplay standpoint, it would like it would just like wander around and you could encounter it.
Right, right.
I
And
wish
I
that it were
remember
less
thinking,
scripted.
right. Yeah, I remember thinking like the first time I played through this game, I kind of did think it was just always around. And it does a good job like making you think that.
Hmm.
It's one of those things like now that I'm older and more jaded, I know it's not actually there.
Hmm.
But I will say the atmosphere and the way the story is told, and the way that you'll just like come across damage and you're like, oh, that must have been the SAX. Like it does make you feel like it's still wandering around, even though it's not.
Yeah, or that it's like always a step behind you.
Right, right,
Because like there are points where like you'll enter a room, you'll exit, and you will find damage done by the SAX.
right. Or you'll have like the screen shake or something and you'll hear an explosion
Hmm.
in the distance. So,
Talking of atmosphere, um, the music is really good. It's not as catchy as like Super Metroid stuff,
right.
but it does such a good job of like setting the mood for like each moment of the game.
I did have
Um,
that in my notes. Yeah, it's one of the more like horror soundtracks for Metroid.
mhm.
Like
Like,
almost every track has this kind of haunting feeling to it that like
mhm.
something's like coming around and searching for you. So,
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. Like the starting area doesn't have a theme, but like when when like a particular sort of thing is happening, like you were told to like rush to a certain spot, there is a like there will be a tension theme, or there will be like a heroic theme playing. So like it does like such a good job of like getting you like in the mood for like whatever your current objective is.
Right, right. It definitely does.
Like
I think,
this is it's so wild to like have a soundtrack that like hypes you up.
yeah, you're right. There were only a couple issues that I had with the soundtrack. So, like restarting the game each time, you hear like the kind of normal save room sound,
Mm-hmm.
like that normal track. It sounds really bad in this game. I'm not sure why. I don't, because I know you were playing with save states, so you may not have
Well,
experienced this
I
much.
still use the save room
Okay, but did you
because
like actually shut the game off and then restart from a save room?
yeah.
Okay, because then that's the only time it really plays, um, and it sounds like really bad. I don't know if you felt this way too, or if it was just me, but like every time I heard it, was like bzz, 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 bzz. I was like, "What is that?
Well,
Why does it sound so bad?"
yeah, it's like it's so funny. It feels really weird and like set like it doesn't belong. It's just like
Yeah,
wah, 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 wah.
yeah. It's like, and then like the good music comes in, and you're like, "What was that?"
Yeah.
So it's like that's a really small nitpick, but it sounds like that was their like placeholder version, and the
Mm-hmm.
composer was going to come back through and actually do a good version that matches the rest of the soundtrack, and then they
Yeah.
just didn't.
I
So
don't.
we got that.
I don't know. I don't know
And then the
how.
Ridley, they do a version of the Ridley theme, and it's probably the worst version of it,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. That I felt was the weakest track in the game, but it only plays once, so
It's during the meltdown, right?
yes.
Yeah. I
But the
will.
rest of the soundtrack is really good.
Yeah. I think. I think the X is a really like fascinating enemy because like this whole time you were fighting basically like a single type of enemy that just like shapeshifts into different forms.
Right.
The like what the mechanic is that like because you have Metroid DNA, you were able to absorb X parasites, so that's how you get health and missiles back.
Hmm.
Because whenever you defeat an enemy, it will resume its X parasite form, which is basically just like a yellow or green blob that kind of just flies around. And if you catch it, then you get a little bit of health back or some missiles. Um, and I think it's really neat. I had forgotten that in some areas, like they would, if you didn't catch it fast enough, that it would turn into a different enemy, or
Yeah,
that
most of
like
the time it
they would
will.
combine and make bigger enemies.
Yes. This element gets used a lot in the later part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting. So it's like not only are you wanting to collect them to regain health and missiles, you're also trying to stop them from reforming. Because sometimes they'll be the same enemy, especially early on. Later, yeah, they will combine into larger enemies, and you'll even see like some of them will just kind of hover around waiting for you to kill a second one so they can merge.
Mm-hmm. It's really cool, and I liked that aspect a lot.
Yeah. So
Um,
really, even though you're fighting all these different creatures, you're really only fighting like the one enemy the entire game, outside of
yeah.
I guess the zombie scientists.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever's up with them, they just kind of turn into a mush pile with one shot.
Yeah.
It was just like the weirdest thing.
They're also only in like two areas, so
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's just such a weird enemy.
It would have been so cool if like they showed up like in different areas, but like they got like progressively nastier, nastier. Because that's the thing is that like as you're going, like the X parasites like adapt to you, like, and that's part of the story is that they are actively trying to stop you. Like they
Right.
are road blocking you as much as they can. They're learning how you move around and interact with them, and they're like
Right.
altering the
Because they
environment.
yeah, because they view Samus as a Metroid.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of their whole thing is trying to get rid of all of the Metroids in this game, which then plays into a pretty big story moment
Mm-hmm.
in like the last third. Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, I mostly just wanted to like kind of go from the top to like kind of give us some structure, but we can just
Right.
sort of jump into anything.
Yeah, because I think we gave enough like background for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's a part about 2/3 of the way through the game, and they've kind of been setting up with a couple of scenes with the computer Adam is talking to someone in the Federation
Mm-hmm.
behind Samus's back. So like the whole time there's kind of this, like what's going on? What are they trying to hide?
Yeah.
And then you do finally figure it out. There's a secret lab where they have been uh, basically creating Metroids
Mm-hmm.
or reproducing Metroids. And this is kind of like one of the big moments in the game because up till this point, like the baby was the last one supposedly.
Yeah.
So it's a big moment for a couple reasons. The biggest one being that this is the Federation breaking Samus's trust.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is them doing it for, and they say it's like for, whatever purposes,
For peaceful
yeah,
applications.
right. But it's like clearly this is a bioweapon.
Mm-hmm.
And then it you don't see much of the Metroids before the SAX comes in and basically destroys that entire sector, and then you have to basically it's very similar to the bottle ship, right? So you have to like release that part of the lab
Mm-hmm.
into space and it explodes. And at this point, this was where I felt like the game kind of went downhill, like both gameplay and story wise. Because after that, you're informed that, because I'm assuming that SAX was destroyed on that part of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're then informed that there are like 10 more of them,
Yeah.
and it's like that feels very cheap because up until this point, it's been this one stalking enemy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it feels like a character at this point because you've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
And then it's gone, and then there's supposedly 10 more, and you really don't see them until like the very end. And one of them is just used for a plot device at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they really shouldn't have done that. How did you feel about that? I felt like that was just kind of a cheap like plot device. Like, oh, now there are 10 of them.
Yeah. It really it really lessens the blow of like this. It just like lets all of the tension out about this like the super powerful alien creature with no soul that's just like going around like desperately trying to kill you. And the thing is like it does it's so ridiculous. The thing that makes it so powerful is that like it is walking around inside of Samus's power suit, and then it can just make more power suit.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then like because there's 10 of them, you should be running into them like almost constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Because the ship is not that big and you've been everywhere at that point.
Yeah.
And there's now a whole chunk of the ship that's missing. But then you just never run across them until you have to fight one. And then when you do have that big confrontation, it's not the one that you started with. So it's just like a random one that you encountered.
Yeah.
And it makes that whole like, I was going to say final, but it's technically the second to final boss fight. Way less memorable.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one that you have like the showdown with in the locked room, that one like goes through the vent. Like you don't capture that parasite after you defeat it. And I thought that was the one that shows up at the end, the one that you fought.
Okay, so then there's still 9 others that we don't see.
Yes.
Again, like none of it
splitting
makes
hairs
sense.
here, but still.
Yes. Either way, it doesn't change my point. Like that's not. Yeah, it loses a lot. I feel by doing that. Because again, it's told to you just via a plain like sheet of text. So it's not even like it's not like you see a bunch of them show up.
Yeah,
you're just told, oh, there are 9 others here. You'll only ever see one more.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of goes back to like because this is not like this is something that is like you only see the SAX in like scripted sequences,
right?
Because it is not like something that is organically moving around that you have to try and avoid. It is like it's nothing because like it hasn't been anything. It doesn't mean anything that there are 10 more. Because like you haven't run into one.
Yeah, exactly. What else do I have in my notes here? Oh, I have in here why the wide beam. So early on, you get this power up that I was like, oh, it's the wave beam. No, it's the wide beam. It's like, and it's just the wave beam, but worse. Because then you get the wave beam later in the game. So I feel like that's probably the dumbest power up in the game.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like if
it's a nitpick.
If you could mix and match beams like you can in Super Metroid, then like maybe there could be some like practical applications for like having it versus not having it. There's no reason to not have a wide beam. And in fact, like I guess the whole thing is about your beam just getting wider and wider. You start with
that's what I was gonna say. The wave beam is just the wider beam at that point.
Yeah, well, and he even like starts getting wider as soon as as early as the charge shot.
Yeah,
which I'd completely forgotten about that.
The charge shot.
Well, it got wider because usually it just lets you charge it up, but it doesn't change like the default shot. But like it gets a little wider. I thought that was kind of neat. But like it is really funny. Like, I couldn't help but think of that meme. It's like, oh god, I'm so wide. Insert picture of wide Samus. It's just like a JPEG that's like crushed down and stretched out.
Do you want to talk about bosses now?
Oh gosh, I would love to talk about bosses. I hate them. I hate them so much.
So I didn't have save states. I just want to mention that. So there were quite a few that I probably had to take like 10 different attempts on. I didn't have many issues with the bosses up until the last third of the game. This is why I said, like, not only did the story take a nosedive for me, but the bosses just got like so cheap. So cheap. Like that stupid plant boss that just like magically pulls you in.
I hated that so much. Oh
like,
gosh.
What is it? What's pulling you in? Why is she like sliding on a banana peel into the plant?
Yeah, exactly.
It's never explained.
If you move too close to the edge, it pulls you in, so you like overcorrect to try and jump out, and then you fall into the other one, and it's just an endless cycle. Meanwhile, it's raining pollen on top of you that hurts you as soon as it touches you,
or knocks you into the water if you're not paying attention. So you have to be constantly shooting the pollen coming down.
Yeah, I figured out the best way to tackle that was to stand on the far right platform.
Yep.
Shoot missiles every chance that you get, and then like hold on the L button so you have that angle. Like turn around and like shoot all the pollen out of the air. Rinse and repeat.
Okay, I went to the far left, and then just like kind of crouched, and then just like did the like hold L and then shot back and forth to clear the sky, and then fired as many missiles as I could. Because the entire boss is just a statue that sits there, and then halfway through, it just starts shooting at you. But the real trouble are the plants. Because if you fall in, it's not like, oh, just jump right out. It's so hard to get out of there. Like water in Metroid is already frustrating. Like when you're trying to pop out of little spaces like that. But for some reason, like every single time I would lose like 3 to 4 entire energy tanks trying to get out of there. And then almost immediately fall right back in. I was like, this is the dumbest boss. And then after that point, all the other bosses were like just as miserable. Nightmare was awful. Maybe that's why I didn't remember it when I saw it in Other M. I just like blocked that from my memory. I had to cheese that boss.
How did you do that?
Well, okay, so like the first... Actually, I kind of just got lucky now that I think about it. Because the first 2 stages of the boss fight, there's 3 phases. The first 2 are pretty easy, right? The first one, you just kind of stand under it, and then you shoot up, and then you move out of its way, because it just goes up and down based on your jumping. So you just jump to make it go up, and then shoot its little like tail turbine thing. Then it starts making it starts like making all the gravity weird, and then you can't use any of your missiles. But then if you just go to the left and crouch, and then like you just duck under the first one, and then you hop over the next one, and it just kind of it gets into a very monotonous pattern,
Mm-hmm.
but it's pretty easy to dodge.
Yeah.
And then the third one, I don't know what it does. It just like flies around the room. It goes through walls, and your only opportunity to shoot it is when it seemingly randomly just kind of stops and then slowly moves towards you. So you have to jump up on this like ladder and then shoot back at it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you figure out what was making it stop moving?
I'm not sure. I when it started like flying around, it kind of does it
Yeah.
in like a sort of ellipse. So
Yeah.
like you can do you have I forget you don't have the somersault at that point, right? Or do you?
No.
Okay,
No,
so
you don't. I don't think you do.
you can jump over it like pretty well. Like if you go in the corner and then like start heading like towards it as it's coming towards you, you get enough like room to like jump over it as it goes under you.
But then what makes it stop doing that?
I
Like there was one time I was like, "Oh, I'll just keep avoiding it," and I just kept getting hit occasionally, but it just never stopped.
oh
It did like 5 or 6 of
I
them, and I was like,
I think you just have to like you try and hit it as it passes.
that was a terrible boss.
Yeah, yeah. I and well the thing like mechanically it's kind of a frustrating fight, but like it's also frustrating that like or I don't know. I don't know if this is frustrating. I wanted to know more about the things that used to be here. And I realized that like for the story purposes it's not as important to know like what these things used to be. Like what
Right.
was Ceres? What was the nightmare? Was
Yeah.
the nightmare a creature? It doesn't look like one, but then you peel its face off and it's goo.
Yeah, it's the sprite work, by the way, is fantastic on
Mm-hmm.
Nightmare. The more you hit its face, like the more, or I guess it's like a little tail turbine thing, the more like goo starts coming out from behind its mask, and then eventually that like blows off, and you see its like horrible slime baby face thing.
Mm-hmm.
That thing is terrifying. If only we had a prequel game that reused that as a boss that could have explained further what that thing was,
If only.
and not just make us battle it again with no more
Yeah,
explanation.
if only, if only. Like there's an opportunity for like some great like diegetic storytelling. Like this thing controls gravity. Maybe it controls gravity ship wide. You defeat this thing, gravity's going to get all messed up throughout the rest of the game. That could be a really interesting like moment.
Yeah,
But like it's just a really weird enemy that warps gravity.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. We need more background on this thing. You're right.
I would just love to know more about it. It just seems it's such a fascinating thing that is just like there with no explanation.
Right. And then there's the mandatory Ridley fight.
Mm-hmm. So this one was
Um,
interesting. Like, is it ever explained like what like is that Ridley or is that a clone of Ridley that they have? You find him like frozen in an
right.
area that you can't access.
I mean, I assumed it was a clone because I mean it really feels like she killed him in Super,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been shown to be able to clone him already because they did for Other
Mm-hmm.
M. Uh, so I still felt like this was the one of the worst boss fights. Still, it's just another. So many of the bosses in this game are just like big things that bump into you and take a lot of health.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of places for you to dodge or go or maneuver. It's just like I'm here in the corner, just like shooting at it, hoping that it dies before I do.
I thought Ridley's fight was just super cheap and anticlimactic because you know what his
Oh
weakness
yeah.
is? You shoot him. You just keep shooting him. It doesn't
Well, not
matter.
only
It
that.
doesn't matter where. You just shoot him. You just keep doing that, and then he dies.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I was like missing something because I died on him a few different times, and I was like, "Is there a weakness?" Oh no, you just shoot it with
I don't
missiles
know if like it's.
or the
I don't
charge
know if
beam.
like I had if I had like a turbo advantage because like honestly, the turbo button just makes it easier. It doesn't really fire any faster than just tapping the button, like a little bit, but not
Yeah.
much. Um, it's just easier than like tapping it constantly. I don't really
Right.
feel like that gave me an advantage, honestly. Um, um,
Did you not struggle with that
no, I
boss?
didn't.
Oh, okay. Okay, I had to repeat it like 4 or 5 times
Mm,
because he does this one move right where he like swoops down and he doesn't even like really reach out for you. You just kind of get picked up,
hmm
and then he like whatever way Ridley is facing, you're kind of facing the opposite. So you have to like turn around and fight against it.
hmm
And then you can still get a lot of shots in on him, but it doesn't make him drop you any faster. It seems
Yeah, I got
so.
grabbed by him a couple of times, but like I didn't feel like I was struggling with it. I will tell you, the one that I did struggle with a lot was the freaking spider.
Oh really?
Yeah, I hate that thing so much. It took me so long to like figure
That's
its
okay. That's
patterns
the one I
out.
was thinking. That's the one I cheesed. Um, so if you just stay to the like far left hand
hmm
side, and you cling to that to the rail up top, right? But you stay to the left. There's this one point where he opens up for you to shoot about like 3 rungs to the right. So once you get the pattern down, you just move like 3 rungs, fire a couple missiles, and then go back to that one spot, and you're pretty much safe.
Mm.
So you do still have to shoot the missiles that he launches up at you, but he can't jump onto you. He can't hit you
Oh
off
no
of the
no no
ladder.
no 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 not the no I did figure out the security drone.
Oh, okay.
I
Oh yeah, the spider. Yeah, okay.
the
I know which
spider
one you're
that
talking
gives
about
you the
now.
space jump.
Yeah,
Also
that's
also
that's weird. I
it
didn't struggle with that one.
it is so weird that like these bosses don't use the power that they give you. Like the X Parasite, like if it's a beam, a power up that you get, then when you get it to like the parasite form, which is like the final stage of the boss fight, and that's its own frustrating battle. It'll like shoots a beam at you, but
Yeah.
other than that, like Spider doesn't do space jump. The I forget what you get from Ridley. Wide beam, I guess. Do you get wide beam?
Wave
Wave
beam, I
beam.
think. Yeah, I think it's wave beam. It's no. Wait, what is it? No, it's the screw attack.
Hmm. Yeah, he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that'd be interesting seeing that giant sprite do a screw
yeah,
attack.
you might actually be threatening. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't struggle with it, so
That's funny because I didn't struggle with the spider, so
okay. Well,
we both had our least favorite bosses, I guess. I mean, I think the flower is still the
the
worst.
flower's definitely bad. The security
Just
drone
mechanically
the
the
security
worst.
drone was like really frustrating the second time that you encounter it because it does the missiles.
Yeah.
But then you figure out that you can just like hang out in the corner and just
Yeah.
shoot its missiles down.
Which I feel like is not the way that boss was meant to be fought.
No.
That's why I said it feels like I was cheesing it. I'm like, this doesn't feel
hmm
right. Like if you sit in this one corner, you just can't be hit. That can't be how they were
hmm
programming that to be. So
Have did we like I guess I sort of like mentioned it a little bit. Did we say like how the boss fights like end?
no, we didn't. So every boss like turns into like a big globby spike ball thing with an eye, and then it just flies around the room, and then like you have to wait for it to open its eye to fire a missile at it, and then right when it opens its eye, it shoots at you.
hmm
Which it's they're not super hard. They get harder as you go on. Like basically by the end, the moment that they're opened for like their weakness is opened, they're also shooting you. Um, the problem is that happens like at the end of a boss fight when you're really low on health.
hmm
And I seem to never remember that was coming. I was like, oh no, like I'm on my last energy tank and like I still have to battle this thing.
Yeah, and they fly at you in like a really weird and hard to predict pattern. So it's
Yeah,
just
you kind of have to like at times like if you can like go into a morph ball to get it to like go to its lowest state and then jump over it, but it does weird loops. That's like both not very fast but then also hard to
mhm.
avoid. It's hard to explain, but it has weird movement and it can kill you at the end of a boss fight. and then you have to do the whole thing.
Yeah,
again.
it's really frustrating. Gosh, what else is there to talk about? The
I'm pretty much out of
the fun animals from Super Metroid make a reappearance.
They're back, yeah.
They don't really do anything. It's just
They started up the
they
ship.
did start the ship. um, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's not as exciting as in like Super Metroid, where like you can save the animals. This is like a story objective. You have to save the animals.
Right.
Um,
Well, and the animals also will show you how to do the wall jump.
do they do that in this game?
Because no,
Okay.
no, just in Super.
Well, yeah.
In my head, we were still talking about Super.
Oh, yeah. No, they
don't do anything in this game. They're just there to be adorable.
Yeah, you let them out of their pen that has like a tire swing in it, and they go and hang out in your spaceship. That's it.
Yeah. So I guess the final boss, right? It's not the SAX. That's the second to last boss. The final boss is another Metroid in its evolved form.
What? Metroid is the boss? I thought Metroid was the main character. Why can't Metroid crawl?
Did they explain where this thing came from?
Not really. I mean, once they had the reveal that like more Metroids existed, you
Right.
like find like cast off Metroid shells like on your way
Right.
backtracking. So I guess it's implied that like Metroids have broken loose and are already like hunting down the X Parasites and
Right.
thriving.
It would be nice to have actually seen that, rather than like you could almost see this game going like, oh, the Metroids took out the other 9, by the way, the 9 you never saw.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's another Metroid that you fight at the end of this, and basically it one-shots you, and then the SAX shows up to try and kill it because obviously they're rivals, and the SAX gets killed pretty quickly, and then you absorb basically you get most of your power suit back along with the ice beam, and then you have to fight a boss where every time it touches you, you get knocked down on the ground for a few seconds. That's a fun mechanic.
Yeah, and it's also
that didn't happen before in Metroid 2.
And it's also just like a really kind of lackluster battle, honestly.
It's over pretty quickly too.
Yeah, I mean it's tense because like you're on a 3-minute timer,
right?
But
yeah, so it can't be like too intense in terms of like the scale of the fight. But yeah, it's just it's like I said, I feel like the last third of the game is definitely significantly weaker than the first 2/3. I was like, I was kind of on the why have I not replayed this game more often? Like this game is a masterpiece for the first 2/3, and I was like, then that last third came, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of what I remember.
Yeah, it's a real grind right at the end, which is such a shame because like there's so much that's really good about this game, like the art, the atmosphere,
for sure.
And like mechanically, it's just like a lot of fun moving around and exploring, but it's incredibly linear, and like you said, the final third of the game is just such a slog to get through.
Right, because that's the third that has Ridley, Nightmare, and the Flower Boss, plus the not so fun last 2 bosses. So, yeah, I guess probably the most interesting thing though about the ending of the game is the position that it leaves off in the Metroid universe. Because, and I don't think we talked about this, the last part of the game, you're in one of the navigation rooms with Computer Adam, and he's basically like, you've been ordered by the Federation to stand down. They're sending Federation ships right now.
Here they come.
Every weekend. Anyway, so there's Federation ships coming in, and you're told to wait because they're going to try to capture the SAX. Because now it's basically revealed, like, they're going to try and if they can't have the Metroids, they're going to try to use the SAX as a bioweapon. And so then you try, like, after that, Samus is obviously very upset. There's a whole conversation. And then you try and get out, and you find you're locked in
Mm-hmm.
there. And then after another conversation, like, the computer Adam kind of becomes more like real Adam and then starts to help you out after putting you down like a few
Mm-hmm.
moments ago.
Adam AI has become unshackled.
Yes. It's basically what happens, and it helps you escape and then tells you, like, you need to destroy this station. That's the only way. So then
Well,
that's why there's a countdown
it's
at the end.
I do actually really like this scene because like
Yeah, oh, it's really
because
good.
it is it is technically like another interactive one because it breaks midway, and you end that conversation at the first time, and you're like, okay, I'm this I cannot let this happen. I have to destroy the station, and me along with it if I have to, if that's what it
Right.
takes. And so you were like, okay, I'm going to go do that. I cannot leave this room. So you have to
Right.
talk to him again. And he's like, you idiot. You absolute moron. You think that destroying the station will solve everything? No. You need to destroy the station and the planet and everything on it.
Right.
I will help you do that. And it's just like,
Yeah,
it's just it's so cool. And like they have a moment where like the computer is like just talking sense into Samus. Like Samus is all worked up and like rightly
right.
so. But like the computer, like that little bit of Adam comes out,
Right.
and I think like that's so cool. I think that
It's handled so much better than Other M,
yeah.
because it is that kind of, you see, that's the kind of relationship that they had.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I feel like the developers of Other M took that way too far. Like, they may not have fully read that whole scene.
Yeah, because like Samus has like they both like know what needs to be done. The computer
Right.
is like smart enough to know that like this isn't it's not good what the Federation is doing. But it
Right.
also like knows that like what Samus is planning on doing is not smart. And I don't know if that comes from like the computer or if it comes from Adam, but like you see that like that relationship, and it's just like it's so like I don't know, I wish that this could have been all that we see of it. I wish that we never got to see the real Adam. Adam should remain a figure that we never meet because like the computer is a ghost of Adam. It is basically an echo of Adam's mind.
Right.
And it's like so fascinating, like this computer kind of like taking on that persona.
Yeah. What's that line? I'm trying to remember. There's a line the computer says that, like, would the real Adam have, like, sat in a control room and sent you to your death or something? And it's like, he kind of did that in Other
Yeah.
M. I was like, I kind of laughed reading that. I was like, that's kind of exactly what he did. He's like, you can't use any of your power ups. I'm going to sit in this control room and give you. It's like they took that literally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's not what that line was supposed to be about.
Yeah, it's like would he have sat in a control room and tell you to sacrifice yourself? And he's like, she's like, the real Adam would have known what needed to be done, even if the cost was very great.
Right. Which I guess includes actually sitting in a command room, telling you to disable all of your abilities.
I guess,
including one that is resistant to heat and then sends you into
hot zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like without the context of Other M, it is this cutscene in Fusion like I'm a broken record, but it paints such a great picture of their relationship together, of what Adam was like as a person.
Right.
And it is utterly ruined by Other M.
And that's one of the things I'm most excited about in Dread, is that the computer Adam is obviously returning.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see, what happens there in a post-fusion world.
Yeah.
Not only that, but like, Samus is not Samus and the Federation are like equally not on good terms
Yeah.
because the Federation broke her trust, and like are clearly trying to create bioweapons,
Mm-hmm.
which was strictly against whatever Federation code thing, whatever referenced another M, that Adam was very much against as well.
Mm-hmm. So at least he's got that
And
going for him, another M.
yeah, at least that, yeah. So like she's not on good terms, and then she also destroyed their entire station and basically lost them both of their bioweapons that they were trying to use, the SAX and the
Mm-hmm.
Metroids. So that's why, like, I've been all this time, I've been very excited to see what happens in Metroid 5, and it's just been a tremendously long wait. you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm very interested to see where they take the series from this point, because she's always worked hand in hand with the Federation throughout the entire series.
Yeah.
And now they're like kind of both on each other's list at this point.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how or if that is something that is resolved in 5.
Right.
I'm sure that it will come up in some fashion, but who can really say? I haven't seen any of the trailers for Dread, so like I don't know how much. I don't know much of what beyond like initial reveal. I don't really know anything
Yeah.
that's going to be in this game.
Yeah. Then don't watch the new trailers.
I've actively been avoiding it.
Right. I tried. I think I told you I haven't watched the big like 5-minute overview trailer because I'm like that just is going to spoil more stuff. I watched the second trailer and that was already too much. But I think I told you too. It also got me way more excited for this game because there's so much cool stuff in that trailer. That like when the reveal was fine, and I was more excited because it was Metroid 5 than what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Like they kind of showed all these gray areas, very unfinished looking areas, and this trailer showed like not only new abilities but also like a very wide range of locations,
Okay.
as well as a couple very interesting characters. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
And there's like a super cool moment in the trailer that I will not spoil for
All
you.
right. I'm super excited. We're not far off from it because it's coming out in October, October 8th. Happy birthday to me! That's 2 days after my birthday.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Well, that'll be cool.
Yeah. I think. A little sad I won't be able to play it on my birthday, but I'll take what I can get.
Yeah. I have to work on the 8th. So.
Oh, no. Well, I'll try not to spoil it for you then.
Yeah, one of my coworker is he's off on Friday, so he's gonna be able to like binge the whole thing while I'm at work.
Oh, gee, I'm sorry about that. I'm interested. Half serious here. Like I'm interested to see how this will compete for my my Hollow Knight playtime. You said I have like 100 some hours in.
160 was the last time I checked.
Okay. Probably a bit more since then.
I mean, I would hope Metroid Dread would take priority since it is a new game.
Well, I just mean like total. Oh, okay. Global. Gotcha. Am I going to be able to play more Metroid than Hollow Knight? And I guess we'll see.
I mean, I doubt it. The Metroid games are generally pretty short, favoring replayability.
That's true.
Now, did you finish Samus Returns?
No, I haven't picked it back up.
Okay. Because I was going to say, there is stuff that game sets up that is being paid off in Dread.
Okay.
So
I should probably work on that then.
Yes. There are kind of bits of lore, like Chozo lore that you get that specifically shows off a lot of stuff with the X Parasite and the Chozo's activity on SR388.
Okay.
So, including if you 100% the game, I believe, that gives you the secret final image. And that is what's being directly referenced in Dread.
Okay.
So there's no words, but there's quite a bit of... There were a lot of theories. I'll just say that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll make that my focus. I'm going to have to I'm gonna have to rush through Deltarune so I can play more Metroid.
I'm just so excited. Like, it's crazy that we're talking about a new Metroid game coming out.
Yeah.
Like, this series, the side-scrolling 2D Metroids, it's literally been 19 years now.
Yeah, that's so wild.
Or over 19 years, because I believe Fusion came out earlier in the year.
Mm.
So...
So we kind of gave summaries, but like after kind of laying everything out, like if you had to,
oh, are we going to do the tier list thing? That was your idea, like a while
yeah,
back. We've never done it.
We keep forgetting to do it. Yeah, well, let's. Why don't we go ahead and do that now? Let's start with this one, and we can retroactively add the others.
I'll create a table after this.
Okay.
And then I'll show that in. If you're watching the YouTube video, you'll probably be seeing it.
Right okay, now, so let's establish a ranking, like what is like usually S, A, B, C, D,
and D. Yeah, and then I guess F. But like, well, I guess we could eventually play an F tier game. Yeah, so that we'll use those as our ranking. Where would you put this? Where would you put Fusion?
I would give this. I guess I would put this on B. It's kind of middle of the ground. There's a lot that is really good about it. I like the controls. The palette is really. Game Boy has such a good palette. So vibrant, so bright.
It does.
Really like the colors. Art design is really good. Like that's some really good pixel art. The environments are beautiful, and none of them like look the same as any of the others. Like it's very easy to tell where you are at any time in relation to the rest of the world. Music and atmosphere are like just top notch. Like it is really selling you on like the mood that you're supposed to be feeling while playing this game. Right. But there's a lot of like. It really like linear level design, frustrating boss fights, that kind of like and it just sort of becomes like a slog to like retrace your steps and everything towards the end. That kind of like hits it under the knees behind the knees a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right.
But like it's not bad. I think it's really good. I don't think it's A tier. I don't think it's C tier. It's
I don't know. I was going back and forth between A and B.
It's not
because I think I might have enjoyed it slightly more than you, but I think I got to give it B. I think you're right.
It's not the best Metroid game, but it is a very good one.
Right.
So.
Okay, so we'll go B with that.
Okay.
So are we doing the other ones?
I forget if we ever gave an official ranking on Sonic.
We didn't.
Okay. Sonic 1, I would get
Sonic 1 to me is C tier.
Yeah, I'm feeling C. Like it was a little disappointing. Like it was really good. And it was like you could clearly see like the roots of the Sonic franchise.
Right. It's just that inconsistency in level design is just brutal.
Yeah.
Plus, Scrap Brain Zone is just the worst. It's just the worst.
Yeah. I would put 2 probably at B because it
I kind of want to lean towards
A.
But I don't know. Is it better than? See, I like it more than Fusion. I would put it higher, but at the same time, I'm not sure. Like for me, I guess it's more of like a B, like more of an A minus, I guess. But we're not going to do that. So I guess if we have to agree on one, I guess I can go B.
Yeah, and we can probably do like once we have enough under our belt, we could shuffle these around. We can maybe revisit some or something. But yeah, I think definitely a step above Sonic 1, but I don't think that it is. It doesn't feel like A tier.
Those special stages.
The special stages are really bad.
Ukulele, we forgot that one. I'm thinking C.
Yeah,
I'm thinking it's not deserving of more than that.
it's close to deserving less, but it is like, I think one of the things we said is that like
Close to deserving less. That's
when it's
great.
when it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, it's really bad.
Yeah.
It is a passable 3D platformer, but it is not. It's not a terrible one, so it gets a pass. I think C is a good place for it.
Right. And then other M. See, this is one of those. That's why I was like, this is a weird one because I do feel like it's better than Sonic 1 and Ukulele, but it's nowhere near as good as Fusion or Sonic 2. This is a hard one, right? Because the gameplay is pretty fun most of the time. But the story and...
I would put it on C above Ukulele. It is passable for a Metroid game. It is not it is not the best Metroid game. It is not a good Metroid game. It is a passable one.
That's fair.
The story is garbage. The story belongs in the non-existent F tier. But yeah. I don't think I don't think that it's so bad that there are things that we came away from our review of Other M with like a lot of positive thoughts about it.
Right. Almost all related to gameplay. Mm-hmm. And not at all story, characters, or voice acting.
Yeah, like if you can ignore the story, like this is a fun romp. It's fun to just kind of turn your brain off and play.
I will say, playing Fusion right after makes Other M's story even worse if possible.
Mm-hmm.
For all the reasons we mentioned previously. So
yeah, but that's just story wise, like
right. As the gameplay is still fun.
Yeah, as a game, like, as a whole, I think C is where it belongs. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. It's not good.
The gameplay is fun. Asterisk.
Yes. Minus the story.
I meant no. Within gameplay, there's a few issues I felt with the.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why it's mostly fun. There are sections that are awful, but particularly the find it areas.
Yeah.
Find the thing that we want you to see, but with no context.
Do you like pixel hunting? Do you like Where's Waldo? Is your favorite like Where's Waldo page the one where it's all Waldos?
All right, so that's all of our games ranked retroactively.
Yeah.
So that was our show this week.
What are we gonna do next? Dead Space?
So we got like a couple weeks before October, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we should slot in something very short.
Okay.
And then maybe after Dead Space we start doing a wheel, or maybe we could do it for this one.
Okay. That sounds good. We had already like talked about a couple of things that we wanted to do, right. And I can't remember any of them.
I had mentioned doing Donkey Kong Country for the series 40th this year.
Oh, I remembered the one I brought up was Outer
Wilds, right?
Outer Wilds.
Yeah. That's one like I would like to give a little bit more time to though than 2 weeks because I know I'm not going to be able to like the how long to beat time is like 12 hours. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be like 15 to 16 for me. Because I am not fast.
It's going to be a few days.
Right. But I do want to do that one.
Yeah.
That'll also give me time to look for a sale on it. Because I do not currently have it.
That's fair. Okay. Yeah, let's do... what was it? Donkey Kong Country?
Yeah, because that's on NSO, so you'll have like... It'll be convenient to play.
Yeah, and then you can also track my time.
Okay. I don't think it's too long, especially if you use the rewind feature. Mm-hmm. That's going to cut things down, but...
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess we'll do that, and then we'll do Dead Space, and then I guess we can start figuring it out from there. Maybe we'll do the wheel idea to. That could be fun.
Yeah.
To have like a mystery game.
Yeah. We decide on air. Okay. Well, thanks so much for listening. I hope that wherever you are, that you are safe and that you're doing well. And I guess we'll see you next week when we talk about Donkey Kong Country.
Are we doing it in 1 week or 2 weeks?
Because
we have a couple weeks, right? Let me look at the calendar real quick. This is some quality content.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 2 weeks, because then the following... Next Thursday is the 23rd. And then after that's the 30th. So that would bring us right... If we did 2 weeks, it'll bring us right into October.
Okay. What will we be talking about next week, then?
We'll come up with something.
All right. Well, tune in next week for a surprise.
Even we don't know. It'll be a surprise to us.
Yeah.
That's usually how it is.
See our shocked faces. Hear our gasping breath.
I think we've got this outro thing down.
Yeah. You know, they say that it takes like 10,000 hours of practice before you become a master or something. But I don't know. I feel like we got it in like we got it in only like a few hours. So we're good.
We're podcasting experts now.
Yeah, we're basically podcast pros. Subscribe to our Patreon. We don't have one.
All right, see you next week, everyone.
All right, take care.